I'd like to welcome everyone to the March 6, 2017 Delaware County Board of Commissioners meeting. If everyone would join me in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. I'm Jeff Benton, President of the Commission. To my left is Gary Merrill, Vice President of the Commission. To my right is Faizan Ahmed, our County Administrator. Commissioner Barb Lewis is working with her daughter-in-law to produce a new grandbaby, so she is not with us right now. Our clerk today is Jen Walribben, so we can start.
Resolution number 17-217 in the matter of approving the electronic record of proceedings from regular meeting held March 2nd, 2017.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 17-217. Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mr. Benton.
Aye.
We do not have any public comment or elected official comment today. That brings us to item number 4, resolution number 17-218 in the matter of approving purchase orders and now certificates and payments of warrants in batch number CM APR 0303 and memo transfers in batch number MT APR 0303.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 17-218. Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Resolution number 17-219 in the matter of approving travel expense request.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 17-219. Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Resolution number 17-220 in the matter of appointing a deputy apiarist and approving an agreement with Dan Curtis for apiary inspection services for 2017.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. This is a renewal of a contract that we've had in effect with a slight price increase. Number of hives is dramatically increasing number of places to look and so on. So it performs an important service to help the honeybees in the community.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Vote.
Vote on motion 17-220. Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Next, we have Christine Hodge with Superintendent of Delaware County Board of Development of Disabilities, and with resolution number 17-221 in the matter of proclaiming the month of March 2017 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good morning, Commissioner Benton, Commissioner Merrill, Mr. Ahmed, and Ms. Walraven. I'm Christine Hodge, your Superintendent of the Delaware County Board of Developmental Disabilities. I'm honored and humbled to be in front of you this morning. I'd like to thank the Commissioners for recognizing March as National Developmental Disability Awareness Month, acknowledging the significant contributions of people with disabilities in our community. As Delaware County remains the fastest growing county in Ohio, we continue to add to the diversity of our community. We are meeting new people, learning new ways of doing things. We're focusing on employment opportunities, true community inclusion, and integration. My hope is that as we have grown in our community, we realize that we are far more alike than different. The DD Awareness Month national campaign slogan is Living Side by Side. This statement sounds so apparent and seems so obvious. People with developmental disabilities should be full members of our society, and that's not the case in every part of our country. However, here in Delaware County, we have done a stand-up job of prioritizing the inclusion of people with disabilities in our community. I moved to Delaware County about 2 years ago, and I've been so happy to see how inclusive we are. People with developmental disabilities are working in the community, they're learning and playing alongside their peers. Community members are recognizing the importance of celebrating everyone. Personally, I'm proud to live and work in Delaware County. This year also marks the 50th anniversary of County Boards of Developmental Disabilities in the state of Ohio. Since 1967, the Delaware County Board of Developmental Disabilities has been advocating and supporting people with DD in our community. You will see us at the DD Board promoting the statewide Always There theme, which reflects the continuity of support, promotion of opportunity, and history of partnering county boards have offered with people with disabilities and their families in the past, in the present, and also as we look in the future. The support would not be possible without the wonderful support of our taxpayers and the ongoing support of our county commissioners. It is truly an honor and a privilege to serve people with DD and their families in our community. And I thank you again, Commissioners, for your unwavering support of the DD Board.
I think we need a motion. I'll make a motion.
I'm gladly second that. Discussion?
Just very proud and pleased with the things that are going on in your organization. I know we've added some new board members lately that seem to be hitting the ground running, and I think there's a lot of great things going on, and I appreciate the job you're doing.
Thank you.
And I'm certainly supportive of this resolution.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had the distinct honor of swearing in your new board members recently, and that was very impressive. The people that were joining the board have great resumes, very, very committed, very interested, very capable of, helping the DD and its mission. And it was really very impressive to see how hard they all work. They work very hard,
Yes.
doing a lot of different things, advancing the DD mission. So again, congratulations. Very happy to, do the proclamation. I didn't realize it. So 50 years ago.
50 years ago was the inception, 1967, and back then it was DD boards and there were mental health boards, and then they separated, so that now we can focus on the folks with developmental disabilities, and really our services are different in the community than for the mental health field. So, yeah, it's been pretty amazing. You look back at the history, and the one thing we would like the community to know is how much we support through our levy funds programs and services in the community that we may not necessarily provide, but we monitor, we coordinate, and we pay for at least 60%, if not all, of those services for people in the community. It's kind of an unseen type of thing that we do sometimes, but it's so important to keep people in the community. And I do appreciate and thank you for the very wise appointments to our board. They have really been wonderful additions, both Howard and Tracy, and have acclimated quite well, to our business and learning, and they're pretty much up to speed. They're both active on our committees as well. So thank you for the thought and consideration you put into that.
Sure. Yeah, the Delaware County DD does a great job, and it's, your leadership and the whole team that makes it such a good organization and contributor to the community.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Sure. All right, take a vote.
Vote on motion 17-221. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Thank you.
Do you want a picture?
We're going to get a vote. You weren't going to read it.
Picture, Gene? All right.
Resolution number 17-222, in the matter of approving the plat of subdivision for Glen Mead, Section 1, Phase A.
So moved.
Second, discussion.
Good morning, Commissioners. Rob Riley, Chief Deputy Engineer. All of the required public improvements have been either completed or guaranteed by bond. The plat has been approved by all the required county agencies, and we recommend approval at this time.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 17-222. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 17-223, in the matter of approving a right-of-way work permit summary sheet.
So moved.
Second, discussion.
There were 2 permit applications this round. Our staff has reviewed the plans for that work, and we recommend approval of these permits.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 17-223. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Thank you.
Rob, while you're there, the South Old State work is moving along?
It is. The paint has already started. One of the first items of work has been relocating poles and relocating water and gas lines, and so that actually required a short closure of East Powell Road west of Old State last week, and so that work was completed last week, but more to go, a lot more to go.
Yeah, a lot more.
And we'll be getting really started, and it'll start getting messy this this summer, but I know that the inconvenience will be worth it when hopefully about a year from now, a little over a year from now, we'll be able to sit back and have an improved roadway that carries a lot more traffic.
That's my preferred path going to Polaris. So I
know, me too.
correct myself for the next year, I guess. Or?
You'll still be able to go that way. We will be maintaining traffic in each direction, and so it just will be at times inconvenient as construction equipment is moving through the work zone and
Knocking a lot of trees down, putting new poles in, and so
Yes.
on. I mean, it's very noticeable. Okay, thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Resolution number 17-224, in the matter of approving an agreement regarding the transfer of ownership of early warning system controller, base radio, and radio frequency.
So moved.
Discussion.
Morning,
Vote,
Commissioner.
second discussion.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sean Miller, Director, Delaware County Emergency Management. Before you is an agreement which essentially transfers the ownership of the radio and frequency which sound the outdoor warning sirens from the City of Delaware to Emergency Management, and our Executive Committee has already approved this agreement. This is a result of conversations with Police Chief Bruce Pijanowski, and he feels that this is an appropriate function of emergency management, especially because many other jurisdictions are wanting to tag onto this system. And so what I mean is recently, Genoa Township has installed a siren that has come on board to this radio system, which is activated here in this building in the Delaware County Emergency Communications Center. And Elm Valley, Village of Ashley is another one. They've recently added a siren, come on board with this, and the Village of Sunbury with their fire station there, they have added another siren as well. So there are other entities even outside of the City of Delaware that have wanted to have sirens added to this. And the benefit for them is they don't have to have someone at the fire station or wherever it is to set their siren off. It's done here. And so from that regard, it's much more efficient for these townships, these villages, to come on board to this system. So that being said, that would enable an MOU to be much more efficient between those jurisdictions and EMA versus also adding the city in there. And as I mentioned, our board has already, the EMA Executive Committee, our board has already approved it, and Mr. Eric Hochstetler from the prosecutor's office has also looked at this language and made his input on it. So with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
I do have a question. I understand it. I support the concept, but you have a very, very limited budget. What about the cost of maintenance? Does that shift to you as well, or does that mean stay with the...
Well, it's a good question. The agreement is for the radio and the frequency, and so the sirens themselves, the 7 in the City of Delaware, will remain under their purview.
Because there is maintenance with those...
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the other thing with this is, we had a lightning strike within the past year or so, and that's about the main concern we would have with this radio and replacing it. But those are fairly infrequent, I know, in talking with Director Brandt of 911. So that would really be the only concern, and I don't think our board had any concerns with this long-term with our budget. I think they feel as well that it's something that makes sense being with emergency management, especially as other jurisdictions want to come on.
But to summarize, the maintenance stays with the local...
The maintenance for the sirens, right. We would assume the maintenance cost for the radio system.
That's fine.
And frequency.
Make sure
Yes,
that's
sir.
understood.
Questions?
That's it.
Okay, I have a couple questions concerning coverage.
Sure.
I've had comments from residents about sirens go off in certain areas and not other areas. So how is this structure going to make the siren countywide? Then would you manage countywide or still only certain parts of the county?
That's a great question. Back, I think it was toward the end of 2009, there was a levy for a more or less countywide siren system, and it was defeated pretty soundly. And so since then, we've been working with jurisdictions to either fund those sirens themselves, like Genoa Township. I'm not exactly sure what their funding source was, but it wasn't a grant through us or anything like that. So we've been working with jurisdictions to identify locations that they want to put sirens up at. We were able to secure some grant funding for the 4 sirens at the state parks, which went up, I think, probably in 2011 or so. That was a 50% match grant. I think the other 50% might have come from the commissioners. And then also utilizing CDBG funding through economic development for the siren in Ashley. So it's not the same funding source throughout. We're trying to utilize the various funding sources as appropriate to put up more sirens in the most beneficial areas. And one of the misconceptions around sirens is that they're designed to alert you inside your home, and that's not the case. You may hear them inside your home, but based on ambient noise, weather conditions, foliage, that sort of thing, those can greatly reduce what you hear inside your home, of course. And so that's one of the teaching points we try to get out there, is that these are truly outdoor warning sirens. And the technology today is greatly changed from what it was even when that levy was on the ballot, because now we have a system called wireless emergency alerts, and you've probably had Amber Alerts on your cell phone. That same system can be utilized to warn for tornadoes. The National Weather Service can utilize it for tornado warnings. And so that's just one example of many on how warning systems have changed in recent years. I think that sirens are absolutely still a part of the warning equation, but I don't believe that they're the whole part. So does that answer your question?
Well, I guess it was, yes, partially, but also what of the county, how much coverage do the existing sirens
I see.
have?
Okay, there are 7 sirens in the city of Delaware, and there are a couple in the Sunbury-Galena area. There's one in the village of Ashley. There's one at Genoa now. There are the 4 at the state parks. And there is one also in Ostrander, which is still activated by their fire department. So we're looking into a funding source to get that siren onto this system as well. I think total we have 14 or 15 throughout the county, and really outside of the 4 at the state parks, which we've utilized grant funding for and some commissioner funding, it's typically up to the jurisdictions to own and maintain those sirens.
Okay. So the Orange, Liberty don't have sirens at this point?
Correct. Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Now, who triggers the alarms then, and can you localize them?
That's another great question. 911 Emergency Communications is typically the organization that would trigger them. We could as well, certainly working with 911. But to isolate is somewhat time-consuming. And so if there were a tornado warning, let's say, that hit part of the county, it would be extremely time-consuming to isolate those sirens that are just within the warning area. Now, the technology is starting to improve, and I think as time progresses, that may be an option to do it with the aid of some software. But right now, the policies state that if there is a tornado warning that touches a part of the county, that all the sirens go off. And it's simply a time standpoint.
Well, there's logic to that. Tornadoes do not follow they can be erratic.
Right.
And they can change paths. And coming from Oklahoma, I appreciate that.
Sure.
So I think the time you'd lose is probably not worth it. It's
Exactly.
letting the whole county, we're not that big geographically that somebody up in Radnor is going to be bothered if a tornado, let's say, is in Ostrander or further south.
Right, and the other aspect to that, too, is in Delaware County, oftentimes the tornadoes that we have are on the smaller end of the spectrum, and those are sometimes harder to see on radar. As you may be aware, the last tornado that we had, which hit just before Iron Man, incidentally, there was not a National Weather Service warning issued for that, and the sirens were sounded as a result of a credible local source calling that into the 911 center. And so the lead time often, if there is any lead time, is not that great. So you're absolutely right that the timing is huge.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
And to your point, with new technology, the cell phones, they really are able to cover the county if people use their phones appropriately.
Right.
So it seems to be a more economical, efficient way of doing it anyway.
Absolutely.
It really sounds like this is a good step forward in an ongoing process to continually improve the alarm coverage.
I believe so, and looking at the areas that are most going to benefit from a siren, especially those areas where there are a lot of people outside, let's say a ballpark or a city square, those sorts of things where they would be outside, they would hear it.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 17-224, Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution number 17-225, in the matter of approving the sanitary sewer subdividers agreement for Verona, Section 2.
So moved.
Second, discussion.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Fulmer, sanitary engineer. This is the standard subdividers agreement for Verona, which is the Parade Home site. This is their next phase that they're going to be moving into.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 17-225, Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 17-226, in the matter of approving revision number 2 to the sanitary sewer subdividers agreement for courtyards at Maxtown.
So moved.
Second, discussion.
Yeah, the modification or revision is allowing the developer to connect their last 7 units. There was some downstream improvements that were contingent upon their development, and those improvements are in operation, and we feel comfortable with them connecting their last 7 units, so.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 17-226, Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 17-227, in the matter of approving a services agreement with Flowline LLC for collection system emergency services.
So moved.
Second, discussion.
This agreement is for as-needed services in an emergency. My understanding is we had some inclement weather several years back in Genoa Township. We had some basement backups, and ever since then, we've had a emergency agreement with Flowline to, if we need to have them come out in the middle of the night, if we have any, I don't want to call them disasters, but if we had some stuff going on, so.
This is something that has been in effect for several years.
Yeah, my understanding in talking to the staff is that, you know, when that occurred, there were discussions with the township trustees and other folks that we would kind of, how could we improve our response to this and mitigate, you know, the backups, and it was to have a, you know, kind of an on-call emergency services agreement.
But we're paying them for the services when they're rendered, not a retainer.
Exactly.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 17-227, Mr. Merrill? Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 17-228, in the matter of waiving the Delaware County portion of tipping fees at the solid waste transfer station to support 2017 litter control campaigns.
So moved.
Second, discussion.
I'm actually going to turn the podium over to Jennifer Way Young. She's with the Delaware County Health District, and she is the coordinator of Keeping Delaware County Beautiful, which is a great title and a great job to have there.
Good morning. Jennifer Way Young, Keep Delaware County Beautiful. I'd like to request the commissioners waive their portion of fees for the transfer station. We will be distributing fee waivers to our local political subdivisions who ask for them, who participate in the Great American Cleanup. Some of them also have some home cleanups, especially in the rural areas where they don't have regular curbside bulk item pickup. That amounts to $3.64 a ton. I've requested 700 cubic yards or 233.3 tons, so that amounts to just about $860 if they're all used. In addition to that, which would be included in that, would be some waivers for the river cleanups that will be held in the summer and the fall, one on the Olentangy and the Olentangy watershed and one on the Scioto River shed. I have requested reduced fee waivers from the COC, or the Central Ohio Contractors who operate the transfer station, and they have agreed to do that as well.
All right, vote.
Vote on motion 17-228. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Resolution number 17-229, in the matter of approving a new organization key and supplemental appropriations.
So moved.
Second, discussion.
Good morning, Cy Kelly, Assistant County Administrator. The supplemental appropriation is needed for the auditor and treasurer fees associated with the collection of the special assessments, and I recommend your approval.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 17-229. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye. Thanks,
That
Ed.
brings us to administrator reports.
I actually don't have anything to report today, but I did visit my counterpart in Knox County on Friday so that we could discuss a little bit about our upcoming meeting with our legislators in Knox County, so that's all I have. Thank you.
And that comes up on the 20th of
On the
March.
20th of March, yes. Should be a good discussion.
Yeah.
We have several issues worthy of
Important
discussion.
topics, yes. Commissioner Merrill?
I really want to have one thing on kind of on the same topic. We have every other week we have a conference call, CCAO, those of us who are involved in that project on the sales tax issue on the medical front. And that occurred last Friday, or bi-weekly, and lasted for about an hour and was productive, and it's part of the process to make sure that the counties get heard during this process. That's all I have.
All right, just a couple other things. At the Lincoln Day dinner last Thursday evening, we had a very dynamic legislator from Arizona, Colonel McSally, the first female fighter pilot in the history of fighter piloting. And she was just a real dynamo, very impressive woman. She's the congressional representative in a district of Tucson. Just again, was very impressed with her. So I just want to mention that. We've got tomorrow is Ohio Wesleyan's Charter Day, where 175 years ago, Ohio Wesleyan received their charter to open as a accredited university. So 175 years. So that's very impressive for Ohio Wesleyan. They're a great community member. So it's nice to get that recognition. They're going to have a 175-year anniversary celebration of the opening of the school this fall. So that's coming. We've got the Norris Run Watershed Drainage Improvement Petition viewing this afternoon. That's at 1:30. So we don't adjourn. We're just going to be in recess until this afternoon and reconvene out there. The Columbus Dispatch on Saturday had an editorial supporting prevailing wage option for local jurisdictions. And so that legislation has been introduced to make prevailing wage an option for local jurisdictions. I think that's a very logical, common sense way to help taxpayers spend their money more wisely. So it was good to see the Dispatch come out in an editorial supporting that concept. And that's all I've got. So we are going to move into executive session.
Resolution number 17-230, in the matter of adjourning into executive session for consideration of the purchase of property for public purposes.
So moved.
Second, discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 17-230. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye. We are in executive session.